Hey guys, it's Chris from Steeda, and today we're going to go over all of the Hawk Performance brake pad and rotor offerings for your Mustang. This particular video is going to be focused on the street offerings. Later on, we'll have another video on our channel regarding the track offerings from Hawk. We got some great content ahead for this video. We'll take you in the showroom, give you a brief rundown of all the street pad and rotor offerings from Hawk. Then we'll head out on Steeda Way and do some 60-0 brake testing in this Q350 EcoBoost to give you some real hard data that'll allow you to make the best brake pad choice for you. So without further ado, let's get to it. If you're watching this video, you're probably thinking, wow, Hawk Performance has a ton of different pad options for my Mustang. I'm really not sure which one to go with. Now, if you're talking about their street lineup, it's actually a pretty simple breakdown, so let's get into it. Before we get into the pad options, let's talk about these beautiful Hawk Performance Talon rotors. These rotors are a high-performance street-oriented design. They're cross-drilled and slotted. These Talon rotors feature a black magni coating right from Hawk Performance that offers superior corrosion resistance and quick and easy bed-in. Now, whether you're looking to replace or upgrade your brake pads, it's obviously a great time since you have everything apart to get the Talon rotors as well to complete the package. But let's talk a little bit more about the brake pads that are sitting in front of me. Now, all three of these different brake pads from Hawk Performance are street-oriented pads. The Performance Ceramic and the HPS 5.0 are relatively similar, but the HP Plus is definitely a step up, so we'll get to that. The HPS 5.0 is a great entry-level pad, and I say entry-level, but it really is an upgrade over stock. The HPS 5.0 pad is the next iteration of the Blue Box or HPS pad from Hawk Performance. It offers a reduced stopping distance, really good cold bite, minimal brake fade, and low dust. It really is an awesome all-around street pad. Now, I ran these HPS 5.0 pads on my 2015 GT, and just like all the other Mustang enthusiasts out there, I love the spirited drive, and on top of that, I took it out on the autocross track multiple times with those pads as well, and saw a definite improvement over the original equipment pads. If you have a performance package Mustang equipped with the Brembo brakes up front, you're probably very familiar with the copious amounts of brake dust that come off those pads. Now, you won't have to worry about that with the HPS 5.0 pads, and neither will you on the Performance Ceramic, so let's dive into these. Now, the Performance Ceramic pad is actually quite a bit like the HPS 5.0 pad in that they're both street performance-oriented pads, but when it comes to modulation, stopping power, low dust, low noise, you really can't go wrong with this pad, as it is a little bit more performance-oriented over the HPS 5.0, which is a little bit of a stock replacement or upgrade. You're going to want the Performance Ceramic pad if you're a little bit more into autocross, you frequent those back roads, really pushing the car, getting those brakes hot. Not as much as a track day, but with the Performance Ceramic pad, it really is a step up over the HPS 5.0. Regardless, either pad is a great choice if your Mustang is primarily street driven. Both the Performance Ceramic and the HPS 5.0 are a sizable upgrade over the factory original equipment pads, but you're not going to be sacrificing all that dust and noise that you get with a track-oriented pad. But living up to the Performance name in Hawk Performance, they really have done a great job of optimizing their brake pad choices based on how much you race or drive your car, or how hard you drive your car. And that's where the HP Plus comes in, which is unofficially coined Hawk's autocross pad, because it has many of a track pad's attributes, but more catered towards a cold temperature, because in an autocross setting, you're only going to be racing the car for maybe a minute or a minute and a half tops. So it doesn't need to have the temperature resistance of a track pad that could be running for 20 minutes, 25, 30, an hour plus. But keep in mind, if you opt for the HP Plus pad, you're going to need to have more performance in mind than comfort. And that's because when it comes to noise, dust, all of those creature comfort things that you're going to get with the Performance Ceramic or HPS 5.0 pad kind of go out the window with the HP Plus, because this is more geared towards performance than anything else. However, keep in mind that if you opt for the HP Plus pad and you're doing anything more than an autocross or a very short track session, you're going to hit that temperature ceiling pretty quick due to the aggressive nature of these pads. But if you're doing anything longer than that, you're probably going to want to opt for a track pad with a much larger thermal capacity. So now that we've dug into the ins and outs of these brake pads and these Talon rotors, let's go put them to the test. So bedding the brakes properly is just as important as choosing the right pad. When it comes to the Hawk Performance brakes, bedding these pads is pretty darn easy, especially on the street. So in order to do that properly, you want to have 6 to 10 moderate pressure stops from 30 to 35 miles an hour, and then 2 to 3 moderate to hard pressure stops from 40 to 45 mile an hour. Now remember, you don't want to drag the brakes whatsoever. You don't want to come to a complete stop, because you don't want those hot pads and those hot rotors sitting in one particular spot on the rotors and have a hot spot. So let's get this thing rolling. Six to 10 stops from 30 to 35 miles an hour. Don't want to come to a complete stop. Turn around real quick. Remember, do not come to a complete stop until you're done. 9, 10. All right, 2 to 3 hard pressure stops from 45 mile an hour. Do your best trying not to hit ABS. That's 3 stops. I'm gonna do a couple more just to make sure these babies are getting nice and hot. So that was, I think, 5 or 6 hard pressure stops. I took it up to about 50. So now what you're going to want to do is find a good place to pull over, let everything cool down. Should take 15 to 20 minutes. Definitely wouldn't hurt to wait a little bit longer. Another thing to note, if you have a stick car, make sure you do not pull the emergency brake. Just find a flat, level surface to put it in gear. That way the brake pads are not touching, you know, squeezed down on the rotors. And after that, your bedding's complete. All right, so let's go over on how we're gonna do this test. Jamie's going to be piloting our Q350 EcoBoost. He's gonna bring the car up to 60 mile an hour. He's gonna hit a set of 2 cones that tell him when to start stopping. And then we have measuring cones starting at 80 feet going all the way to 130 feet. We'll measure the stopping distance and the rotor temperature for each pad 3 different times. Take the average of both, and those will be our results for each pad. I should also mention that the Q350 EcoBoost is equipped with Nitto NT555 G2 tires, 275 wide up front and a 315 wide in the rear. Hope you guys enjoyed that 60-0 brake test of all these Hawk Performance street pads. So let's dive into the data. Looking at the data right off the bat, 2 of these brake pads definitely stand out against the other. The HPS 5.0 and the Performance Ceramic, as we kind of predicted, were relatively similar pads, Performance Ceramic being a little bit better. The HP Plus, however, is more of an autocross pad, not as concerned about noise or dust, but definitely has that bite that made it stand out against the other 2. So we kick things off with the HPS 5.0 pad. Now, this is the successor to the HPS pad, which Hawk still carries, but essentially it's a stock replacement, slightly above stock, street performance-oriented pad, and the entry level to the 3 that we tested today. The front rotor temperature came in at 192, which we measured with an infrared thermometer. So the average braking distance of those 3 stops came out to 109 feet for the HPS 5.0 pad. Definitely not too shabby, relatively comparable to stock given the car that we're testing on. Moving up was the Performance Ceramic pad. Now, personally having driven on the HPS 5.0 pad, which I thought was a decent notch up over stock, Performance Ceramic definitely impressed me considering it was not noisy, not dusty, and it definitely had quite a bit more bite than the HPS 5.0 pad today. The average front rotor temperature came out to a very comparable 189 degrees in comparison to the 192 on the HPS 5.0, and the average braking distance came out to 98 feet, which was an 11-foot improvement over the HPS 5.0, quite a bit. Now moving on to the HP Plus, this is a little bit of an outlier in comparison to the Performance Ceramic and the HPS 5.0 because it's more of an autocross pad. It could be part of the track lineup, but it would definitely overheat after a hard 20-minute session, which is why we included it in the street lineup. Now the average front rotor temperature for the HP Plus came out to quite a bit higher, 243 degrees, and the braking distance 92 feet, which was a 6-foot improvement over the Performance Ceramic. One thing we will note is the more runs we kept running on those HP Plus pads, the hotter they got and the better they kept braking. Now, keep in mind, this was just some 60-0 stops, nothing crazy, but again, on a 20-minute session, you are gonna be running those pads pretty darn hot. probably will experience some fading. And speaking of brake fade, stay tuned to the Steeda YouTube channel where we'll be testing many of the track brake pads from Hawk Performance on the Q350 EcoBoost out at the firm just outside Jacksonville. There we'll not only have the guys from Hawk Performance helping us out, but we'll also demonstrate brake fade by taking a street pad and putting it out on track and seeing what happens. We hope you enjoyed this video. A special thanks to Hawk Performance and Nitto for helping us put this together. Comment below and let us know if you have any questions on which Hawk Performance pad would be best for your Mustang or Ford. And hit us up at Steeda.com because we have the full lineup of Hawk Performance brake pads and rotors for your particular vehicle. Leave us a like, subscribe if you want to see more cool Ford and Mustang content, and don't forget the most important thing, speed matters.